Hello, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dan, I am the IT Geek. So I want to welcome everybody to what is series 4, I believe, of my YouTube channel content. So as previously I've done 3 other video series where I've talked about various topics around identity and access management. I've also talked about Veeam and the cloud integration with Microsoft Cloud. And so this week, or this month should I say, I'm starting a piece around migrating workloads to the cloud. So what this is going to be is a series based on my own personal experience. So this is by no way, a best practice or, this is how you should do it, etc. This is my own take on how I have historically done it in my experience, in previous roles, and the role that I'm doing at the moment. So please don't take any of this as gospel. If you find it useful, perfect. If you don't, there's plenty of other content where you might find useful. So without further ado, let's get on with what is now. This is going to be the series introduction. So I'm just going to do an overview of a few different things, which I'll go into now. So this is the series introduction, as I mentioned, of migrating workloads into the cloud. So just it's going to be a short video. There's no demo. This is literally just a quick introduction as to what I'll be discussing in upcoming weeks. It's going to be a series overview to start with in this episode. Just go over the different episodes you can look forward to and the topics that I'm going to cover. I'll then just give a couple of workload migration examples again that I've experienced and projects that I've done in my sort of job role historically and in my existing role. I'll discuss some of the tool sets that I'm going to go through in this series, and also the ones that I'm going to use in my demos, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. And finally, I will reveal who my guest podcast is going to be for this series. So looking forward to that. It's all organised. I'm really excited to have this person, and they'll be so kind to give me their time. So really looking forward to the podcast, which will be the middle of the month, I believe. So that'll be revealed at the end, so you have to watch it at the end. Please don't forward. So you have to watch it all towards the end to get the reveal. So just a quick series overview. I'm going to start off the next episode, which will be migrating workloads into SharePoint. So in this episode, I'll discuss examples and use cases that I've personally experienced, and some of the some like an overview of that, and some of the things people should be aware of that I did and how I did it. And then I'll go into again just a couple of different use cases where you would be migrated to SharePoint. Then also I'll do a demo of a on-premises file share migration to SharePoint library online with a specific tool, which I'll go into shortly. And then the episode after that will be, so that'll be episode 3, migrating workloads into Azure files. So again, similar sort of scenario where I'll go through an overview of migrating workloads to Azure files, and then also some examples that I've experienced, and also then some tool sets, followed by a demo of migrating again file shares into Azure files and the tool that I use to do it. Then I'll go into migrating workloads into Exchange Online. So this will actually be a 2-part kind of video where I will go into some of the on-premises hybrid cloud experience that I've had, and then again, it'll be a demo as well, but there'll be a bit more to this video because it's just a lot more, entails a lot of hybrid configuration, etc., which I'm not going to show, but I will go into that, which is why it's going to be split over 2 videos. So the first video will be more sort of this sort of PowerPoint content, whereas the second video will be more on kind of a full demo. And again, we'll do a certain type of migration from Exchange on premises into Exchange Online. So that should be an interesting one. And then I'll be doing one on migrating workloads into Azure Infrastructure as a Service. So this is the virtual machines, really. So, you've got on-premises virtual machines in VMware or Hyper-V or however, and then you want to migrate those into Azure. So again, an overview, some of the experiences that I've had, the tool set that I used, and then again, finally, a demo to finish that video off. And the last video that I'll do in the series will be about migrating and managed device workloads. So this is from maybe you might be using SCCM or some sort of group policy to manage your devices on premises. I will give again an overview of that, some of the tool sets I've used to migrate into Endpoint Manager, and also just again some of the experiences that I've got. And we'll finish it off by doing a demo of autopilot, and that should be really good. So just some workload migration examples that I've experienced and that I'll be covering in some of my content coming up, some of my videos. So on-premises or hosted file shares into Microsoft Cloud Storage. So again, I've mentioned SharePoint Online, which I know isn't storage per se, but it's a document library, but it does have a storage element to it. So I've done those sort of workloads, migrating file shares into Azure files, but also migrating file shares into other sort of storage components, like maybe archiving data into the object storage, blob storage, which I've done before as well. So those are just some of the sort of Microsoft Cloud Storage examples that I've used. I'll obviously be touching on some of them in this series. On-premises or hosted email into Exchange Online is also another kind of workload migration example I've done. So for those people who do know a bit about Exchange, as you're aware, there's different types of migrations you can do. There's either cutover, staged, and so on. I've experienced both. For sort of the cutover migrations, I've used more third-party tools, which are going to outside the scope of this series, but it's something I've experienced. But what I will be covering in this series is more the sort of hybrid, the native hybrid Exchange, and doing like a stage migration and just showing that process. So those are again just some of the Exchange migration workloads I've experienced. There is the sort of PST migration where you upload the PSTs into Microsoft Cloud sort of storage, and then you import them into Exchange. I've not experienced that myself, but I know that is a way it can be done. But back a long time ago now, I have actually done the manual exporting of PSTs and importing into using Outlook. I've done that before, and that's not a pretty example, but that is something I've experienced as well. So the infrastructure as a service side of it, so we've got on-premises or hosted infrastructure, normally virtual machines, either in Hyper-V or VMware. In my demo example, I'll be using Hyper-V, but again, that's something I've experienced. I'll explain the tool set shortly. But that's quite a common example, which I'm sure hopefully many viewers have experienced. But that's kind of my recent example of this type of workload. And finally, this is probably what I've done more of in recent history, is my on-premises managed devices into Endpoint Manager. So this is a couple of different ways this can be done, either through using the SCCM or Config Manager as it's now known, and Endpoint Manager Hybrid, so the co-management. That's one way of kind of gradually migrating workloads, managed device workloads and other workloads connected into Microsoft Cloud. Or going for like hybrid devices, and where you've got on-premises domain joined and Azure AD joined devices, and that allows you to utilize Endpoint Manager, Intune, and all those sort of features. And then again, you can then implement autopilots, all that. So I'll be doing the sort of the hybrid device in my demo, where we have a domain joined and Azure AD joined device, and then utilizing autopilot to reset those devices and reprovision them. So that should be a really interesting. That'll be the last episode of this series. So that should be a really good end to the series. So I just want to give some examples of the tool sets that I'll be discussing in this series and what I've used in the past. First one being SharePoint migration tool. So I've used this to migrate file shares on premises into SharePoint online libraries, or do a SharePoint on premises to SharePoint online migration before. Great tool, free to download. What ruined the surprise? I'll go more into it in the next episode. Azure File Sync is another one I've used a lot successfully. Again, to migrate into Azure files from various locations. You can also, if again with the right sort of permissions and access and networking, you can also use Robocopy and other sort of command line based tools. But my experience is Azure File Sync, and that's what I'll kind of be showing in the demo in that episode. Hybrid Exchange, as I mentioned, I've got a lot of experience in third-party tools for sort of more cutover migrations, but in my example and in my demo, I'll be doing the Hybrid Exchange. So I'll go into, I said it's going to be a two-part video is that one, because there's a lot of content to cover, and I'll go into how to set up the hybrid exchange, and then also doing a migration of some mailboxes. Finally, autopilot. So I know it's not really a migration tool, so to speak, but there's one part in getting your devices enrolled into Endpoint Manager and Intune, but it's another to reprovision them. So I will be touching on the sort of autopilot reprovisioning in some detail, as well as showing the sort of gotchas and what you should really be look out for, and requirements as well around getting that hybrid device enrollment done, and then for, your final stage being cloud only, which is where the autopilot piece comes in. So this is probably what everyone's been looking forward to the most, my guest podcast guest reveal. Now, obviously, again, this is sort of migration into the cloud, and as I've seen on this person's videos and the content they create, they've got some amazing content on this sort of topic, and they've got a lot of experience in this topic. So I thought it'd be great to get them on as a guest, and again, it's going to be more real world based, and that this person giving their experience on migrating workloads into the cloud, so it's relevant to the topic that I'm going to be discussing in this series. So without further ado, my guest for my podcast this month is going to be Sarah Lean, aka Techie Lass. So again, I want to say thanks to Sarah for making time for the video and the podcast that we'll be recording later on in a few weeks' time. So it should be a great video, and hopefully you can all look forward to that. So probably after episode 2, I think, so it's going to be like the third video drop for this series, so look out for that one. And that's me done for this little short introduction. Just wanted to give everybody a preview of what they can look forward to in the upcoming weeks. Again, I'm just trying to share my experience. I don't claim to be an expert in anything. I'm just I've got a lot of experience, and I've had a lot of bad experiences in my time, as well as good experiences with IT and doing my job. So I thought it's nice to be able to share that. A lot of people have been so kind to share their experiences and do videos and blogs, and that's all I'm trying to do. So I hope everybody finds it useful. If you don't, no harm done. If you do, great, thank you. Give my videos a like. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and share my videos. But that's me done, short and sweet. So thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, goodbye.